Okay, this is Paul Wood at Twist or Stick meets Jill Marshall, MD of Bloom. Hi Jill.
Hi Paul.
How are you getting on?
I'm good, thank you.
Nice to see you again.
Yes, you too.
Should we kick off with a bit of a summary of your career to date?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started client side with Nestlé when they were still down in Croydon, and I very quickly moved to the agency side because I was inspired by somebody who came in to Nestlé to present their agency creds to me and my senior brand manager.
Yeah.
And I thought, blimey, that's what I want to do. I didn't even know it existed as an industry at that point. So I moved into design. My first job was with Lewis Moberly, joined there in the late 80s when they were very much at the peak of their creative powers, winning Goldie and ADs, etc. I then moved to Cody Portobello, spent 5 years there, progressed then to Design Bridge where I spent 10 fantastic years, and then really progressed up to managing director before leaving to join Bloom, which was 8 years ago, and I won't be going anywhere else after Bloom.
Cool.
Just for the record.
So can you give us a quick summary of what Bloom is all about?
Yeah, so Bloom was founded in 2001 by two ex-Unilever clients and a creative, and they very much had the vision of creating the agency they had always wanted when they were clients. So taking all the best bits of all the agencies they'd worked with. And at the heart of that were a number of things. The importance of strategy. We do spike very strongly on the strategy, and it's what we're known for. And relative to our overall size, we have a very strong strategic planning department. We believe that getting the strategy right before you start going into the creative phase is crucial. And equally, that the delivery is totally interconnected with creativity as well. So the mutual interdependence of strategy, creativity and delivery, three pillars on which the business was founded, understanding, creativity and delivery, that is still the case today. It isn't rocket science, but we really try and stick to that. We specialise in branding, particularly packaging, brand worlds, visual identity, etc. We've got a great client list which consists of most of the big FMCG companies that you could ever wish to have on your client list. People like Diageo, who were a founding client, General Mills, Nestlé, PepsiCo, Danone, and so on. So, and alongside that, we also like to have some smaller, more lifestyle clients. So, you know, one of the brands that we're particularly well known for creating is the Mr. and Mrs. Smith Hotel guide brand, which was back in 2003 now, but still very much, you know, goes along, I think, with Bloom's reputation.
If you, I suppose in terms of your career to date, best career advice that you've given or you've been given, perhaps you've nicked it off someone else and given it to someone else on the way.
I think just very simple, and I have given this piece of advice to somebody recently who was here in a role that he wasn't necessarily suited for, and the reason for that was because you've got to love what you do, you've got to be really passionate about it. If you're not jumping out of bed every morning to do what you do, then you're in the wrong job. Whatever that job is.
Inspiration, in terms of the sort of most inspirational people you've worked with, not to name perhaps one, I don't know if there's one or two that sort of stick out to you.
Loads of people. I mean, my boss when I was at Design Bridge, an amazing chap called David River, he was inspirational for me. Graham Shearsby, who is the Group Creative Director at Design Bridge, another inspirational person. Here at Bloom, you know, as a business partner, Ben is fantastic to work with, and also our creative director, Simon Adamson.
On to creative work, so the best or biggest creative brief you've had an opportunity to work on to date?
At Bloom we work on some massive global brands, you know, like Johnny Walker, etc., and they're always fantastic briefs to be involved in. Over my career, probably one of the ones that sticks out amidst all the many household names that I've worked on, like Nescafe and PG Tips and Rowntrees and on, is when the bids for the National Lottery were being put together many years ago now. This is probably in the early 90s, isn't it? And Camelot were pitching, Richard Branson was putting together a bid, and I worked along with JWT on Richard Branson's bid. And we got to meet him, and we got to have dinner with him and celebrate the bids going in. He didn't, of course, win. It went to Camelot, but nonetheless, it was a really interesting project to be involved in.
If you had to summarise the current sort of state of the creative industry, I suppose you've got design in the area that you mainly focus on, but the whole thing, creative industry. What are your thoughts?
I think it's in pretty good shape. It feels like, you know, we've come a long way since the dark days of 2008, 2009, when pretty much every agency, I think, was affected. Feels like we're all on the up now. It feels buoyant. There's some great briefs out there. I think it's good times for the creative industry.
Good. If you were speaking to a young Jill Marshall, leaving uni, if you grabbed hold of her, got in a room, what would you say to her? Anything you'd say to her particularly? Any advice you'd give her?
I'd probably say don't marry a graphic designer because you'll never be rich and you'll be working till you're 60. That's one piece of advice I'd probably give her. I think again it comes back to this point about love what you do, because life is precious, time is precious, and there's the old saying, isn't there, that nobody ever sat on their hospital bed and said, do you know what, I wish I'd spent more time at the office. Given that we do spend a lot of time at work, and it's a brilliant industry that we work in, just enjoy it. Have fun. I mean, that it sounds a little bit glib in a way to say that part of our mantra at Bloom is about having fun and enjoying it, but it's actually a very serious point, because if you can't have fun in this industry, then you want cheating, frankly, because it is one of the most amazing industries to be involved in. You get to work on great brands with creative people, with, you know, inspirational ideas and skills, and it's fun.
In terms of inspiration, I know we touched on it a little bit earlier, in terms of the best thing, the most inspiring thing that you've heard or seen recently, anything that sort of really inspired you in terms of perhaps creative work or TV, anything particularly, or music, could be anything?
I think, you know, we all draw our inspiration from lots of different areas of life. I go to the theatre a lot, and I do get a lot of inspiration from seeing, you know, very fine actors deliver fine performances and beautiful dialogue. I think actually it's probably quite topical, but recently, of course, there's been an awful lot of stuff going on about the First World War and the Second World War as well, with the anniversaries of the D-Day landings. And I've been doing some research into family history, and actually came across my uncle's commendation for the Military Cross in the Second World War, and actually being able to read in detail what he had done in order to win that Military Cross. I found very moving, but also incredibly inspirational. So I think if you want inspiration, you can look for it in all kinds of walks of life. But there's certainly a lot of inspiring, heroic stories around at the moment that you can draw from, I believe.
If you weren't in the industry, I know you're obviously very passionate about the industry, if you weren't in the industry, you've gone on a slightly different path, hadn't joined Nestle, what else did you want to do?
Probably a barrister. Because that would feed two parts of my personality, I think. One is that I love doing research and analytics and finding out facts and digging for stuff, but I'm also somebody who likes to present and be a bit of a showman, and I think as a barrister you kind of have to combine both those skill sets. So I think that's what it would have been, although in this hot weather I think the wig would have probably been a bit itchy and more.
Brands, you've touched on quite a lot of brands that you've worked on. If there was any that you'd love to have another crack at, or one that you'd really like to get your teeth stuck into, any that are sort of on your hit list?
Loads, but the one I would probably mention is Nescafe.
Okay.
Because I've worked on it on and off over the years, and you know, it's a great brand. It's a household name here and indeed around the globe. But I just think there's so much untapped potential with it as a brand, and I think it deserves better packaging than it's got right now.
Okay. Funniest or awkward moments from pitches that you've been involved in, that you care to, that you want to talk about, or perhaps aren't too rude?
I won't mention
or not any names as well.
The client, but there was a pitch about 4 or 5 years ago where it was just before Christmas, and we came into the room, and one of the clients, who was a key decision maker, hadn't yet joined the meeting.
Right.
She came in after about 10 minutes or so. We were getting set up. She came in, it was lunchtime. We of course hadn't had any lunch, because you don't when you're pitching. Brought her lunch and said, "I'm going to eat my lunch, is that alright?" Fine.
Yeah.
And then said, "I've actually only got about 20 minutes, and then I've got to rush to the next meeting." So we tried to obviously speed up the pitch as much as we could, but still cover all the content. We try always to put a couple of more light-hearted pieces into our pitches where we can and when it's appropriate, whether that's about the team members or the culture of Bloom or whatever it might be. All I can say is that it was like those moments on Vic and Bob when tumbleweed just kind of blows through the room as you deliver your lines, and there's a sort of whistling wind around you. And it was very clear that we were not going to win that particular piece of work. When the client chomped through her chicken sandwich, ate her crisps, and then left after about 20 minutes.
Really? Okay. Yeah. If I could grant you a wish, if you had a magic wand, and you could change anything about the industry that perhaps you didn't like, or anything at all.
Yeah. Can I have two things?
You can have three if you want, but let's stick with two to begin with.
Okay, so free pitching. It's a no-brainer, isn't it? Why we continue to give away intellectual property for free is a mystery, but we do. And frankly, clients who are knobheads. I mean, I'd say knobheads on it because I just said it twice now.
You said it, you said it twice.
It's not BBC, is it?
No, it's not BBC.
No, that's fine.
So not naming any names on that.
Not naming any names. There are a lot of them. There are a surprising number of them out there. We always say here that a client gets the agency and the resulting piece of work that it deserves.
Okay. Yeah.
So if you've got, and we've got a lot of great clients, but there are some clients out there who don't really know how to work properly with agencies, don't know how to brief, don't know how to evaluate work. And part of the problem within the client community is that there's been insufficient investment in training for marketeers in the last few years. It used to be design training, brand training used to be quite high on the agenda for most companies. And now there's probably only the likes of Unilever, Diageo, who are investing in that. And it shows. You can't expect brand managers who haven't worked on design before and haven't been trained to know how to go through the process and do it. We try and help them as much as we can with our own training and inductions, but it can sometimes be a bit of hard work.
So on to the quick fire round. Favourite current brand?
Favourite current brand, Scotch and Soda. It's a clothing brand.
All-time favourite brands?
Oh, that is a really, really shitty question and very difficult to answer. But I think probably Audi.
Okay, yeah.
I think it's a brilliant product, a brilliant brand, and it goes right through their whole service ethos and every touch point.
Double espresso or green tea?
Both, it depends on how much alcohol's been consumed the night before usually.
Brightest person you've worked with without upsetting too many people?
I think
brightest two, one?
Certainly my business partner Ben would be in that category. He would have to be in there, and I think probably David Ribbett would be the other person.
Most creative person you've worked with?
That's really hard to. I'd have to go joint first on that as well and say Graham Shearsby and Simon Adamson, my current creative director.
Independent or network?
No contest, independent every time.
Money or happiness?
Happiness. You don't come into design if it's all about money, do you? Sorry,
no, you don't. Twist or stick?
I don't gamble.
You don't gamble? Not at all?
Horses, not cars.
Grand National?
Grand National a bit more. Let's not go into my gambling habits now.
Fine. Thank you very much, Jill.
You're welcome. Pleasure.